Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So first off, I want to apologize. I did want to have this video out basically a week ago, but I got stuck with family, and you know, it's the holidays. I'm not complaining about it. I enjoy it. It's just I apologize for that. So today I do want to go over it. First off, Happy New Year. Hope everyone's having a great day and had a good holiday season and break from school and whatnot and work. So with that said, these are the settings that won my partner and I $2,200 in the console Royale duo tournament on NAE as the server. And so we placed 99 in the world on day 3. We placed 247 or 246, can't remember exactly, on day 2. And day 1 we placed like top 2,000 or something like that. I think like 2,500, somewhere around there. Not too good on day 1, but the format was kind of whack. Point being, if you want to know these settings, they're on, it's linear settings, they're console settings, even though I do play on PC now. But if you are interested in seeing these settings that won me the great placements and a pretty significant amount of money for a tournament, then yeah, I will show you that right now. I am also going to show you my Elite Series 2 controller as well, in person through photos, and I'll explain what I have on there as far as the thumbstick settings and all that stuff, as well as the actual button mappings and all that stuff in the settings of, you know, the console interface. So we'll go over all of that, and I'm going to go ahead and go pretty fast over most of these initial settings here until I get to the custom binds, just to make sure that we have enough time to get through everything. And so yeah, with that said, let's get right into it. Now, controller options, here we have this thing. So edit hold time is here. I don't know why it's not grayed out, because this does not apply to me, because in my controller custom binds, I have a custom bind where I actually have edit right here. So if you make this edit a actual button, then the edit hold time does not apply to you. And so there's that change right there. Vibration, I like to have it on. I don't know how you guys don't play with vibration. It really just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, so for me, I keep it on. Look sensitivity, aim sensitivity, this stuff is grayed out, so it's not affecting me, and that's because I turned use advanced options on. Build mode sensitivity multiplier and edit mode sensitivity multiplier, keep these as even as you possibly can. Sometimes, depending on the day, I'll go maybe 0.1 up or down, 0.2 up or down, just to kind of flex, you know, I keep it flexible with the day, right? But keep these as even as possible, because it's just going to make it to where you're more consistent. Your mind is not having to go through 3 or 4 different sensitivities based off what mode you're in. I think that that's enough already going from build to normal, like combat, going back and forth between those. So I keep these as even as I possibly can, and I think that that just gives you the most consistent results that you possibly can achieve. Now, building off that, I keep these at 60%, and again, keep these two dead even. The reason is because it just creates a more even circle. Like if you do like a circle motion with your reticle, you will be able to do that much easier if these are actual equivalent values. Whereas if you have vertical speed higher, which is what people kind of, I don't know why, but they kind of like to do that, it just doesn't feel as consistent. It might feel good slightly and like in the moment, but as far as long-term consistency, this stuff being even is the way to go, I'm telling you. I'll preach that to the day I die. Now everything else I keep at like 0%, 0 seconds off. Just trying to keep everything as simple as possible and as instant as possible. Now, I will not lie, so sniper sensitivity is tied into this advanced aim down sights ADS sensitivity. This is for ADS with a shotgun, AR, sniper, everything. And so sniping feels really bad on my settings because I don't really snipe that much, I don't really care. I prioritize AR aim and shotgun aim, and so I keep that at 14%. Sometimes if I want to use a sniper more, I'll raise this a little bit, just because the sniping just feels way too slow. But if I do that, then it makes ARs harder to aim with and shotguns harder to aim with. So you really got to play with that yourself, but that's how I like it. I don't really snipe that much, so it works out for me. Linear, again, I told you I'm on linear, not exponential, so make sure you change that to linear if you're trying to copy these settings. Aim assist strength, obviously 100%. You do not want to go lower than that. It's already hard enough as it is. Use legacy controls, obviously keep that off. I don't even know if we can do that anymore. I have no idea. Yeah, so copy from basic, blah blah blah, this doesn't matter. Now these dead zones down here, these are the same values, 9%, 5%, as the values in here. If you hit RT a few times, you get over here 9%, 5%, 0.09, 0.05. I'll explain that in a second, but yeah, let's go back real quick to this screen. My music, I turned down to 30% because they just blast the music in this game for some reason. I don't really know why. Now, this stuff doesn't really matter. 3D headphones. So this is something that they introduced in Chapter 2. It sounds better in my opinion than the traditional, sound that they have. But it's all preference. Some people don't like it, some people like it. There's not really a way to like justify it being better. To me, it just sounds better, and I can understand where people are a little bit more accurately. So there is that. None of this matters. It only change that. Custom binds. If you are doing this for the first time, what you want to do is come in here on the left and click on Builder Pro, and then click on Custom. Doing that will basically, it'll start your custom layout with the Builder Pro, and so you're just basically editing the Builder Pro layout. So that's what I did. Let me go into combat controls here. So the first thing, obviously left thumbstick, as I said, because we turn sprint by default on, we don't need a sprint key, because it automatically does it by default. So left thumbstick, we're going to use that as toggle pickaxe, and then edit is on Y, X is reload interact, B is only switch mode, not switch mode / edit. Make sure you make that change, and then jump is on A. So again, all 4 of these buttons are actually on paddles on my Elite Series 2 controller. So yeah, I use 4 paddles. So again, the whole goal of my settings is to not have to move my right thumbstick, or sorry, my right thumb off my right thumbstick at all. And so that is what I wanted to achieve, and so that's what I did achieve. So now crouch is obviously still on right thumbstick, and then over here I have repair on the right on the D-pad, because that is a function that you'll be doing mostly inside of a box, and you can afford to take a thumb off of a thumbstick and press that D-pad button. Now build controls, this is unbound, it doesn't really matter. Before in my old settings, it used to be edit was on X and trap picker, place, interact, as well as reload interact, that was all on Y. The reason I flopped that is because the Epic introduced this feature in the game called carrying, and so you would pick up your down teammates basically to carry them, but you can't map the carry function. Like if I come in here, the carry function is nowhere in here, and so you had to just play the game around what they gave you, and so they automatically made that function of carry Y. And so I was like trying to reload my gun, and I'd be picking up my down teammates in a box, and I was like, I hate that. So I changed it to edit, to where now it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't really affect it too much. Now they actually, after I made this change, they made it to where now the left thumbstick is actually to carry somebody. I don't really know why, it's just how they did it. And so it's kind of annoying still, but it is what it is. I might change something based off that, but my settings shouldn't change too much if I ever do decide to try to play around with that. Moving on here, so again on the second screen you have trap picker / place / interact. So this is how you actually pick traps and place traps. Also really important, right thumbstick, change material / trap. So again, you don't have to move your thumb off your thumbsticks at all to do any of this, and it's very fluent. Last screen, nothing has changed. I still start the edits with, again, Y. Then I select with RT, and I confirm with B, and then I reset my edit with RB. And that just feels natural for me, and I like it a lot. And so as you'll notice, B is actually the same button to pull out my builds and confirm. If I go over here, and here we go. It's the same, right? And so I'll get into that in a second through the Xbox Elite settings, but yeah, just something to note there. And then dead zones. So the way you want to work these is just go as low as you possibly can without getting drift on the right thumbstick. The left thumbstick doesn't really matter, but the right thumbstick, I do get drift on it, but I can just deal with it. So I tell you guys, go as low as you can without the drift, or as long as you can tolerate the drift, then that's fine. But it's up to you, honestly. So I just keep it as low as possible. That's the way I like it. Now, if we take a look at our controller in person here, I'll just show some pictures and explain it. As you can see on the left trigger, I have it all the way down to the last trigger stop, to where it's very instant when placing stairs and ADSing. My right thumbstick is on the middle setting, middle trigger stop, and that just feels right for me. I need it to press in to feel like a trigger whenever I'm shooting, but I don't want it to be like, I don't want to have to press it all the way down, because it would just make editing harder as terms of selecting and whatnot. So there's that. Again, all 4 paddles are there, as I said. I use all 4 of them. And then here's the thumbstick. So I use 2 of the normal size thumbsticks actually, and then I use an extended control freak on top of the normal thumbstick. So that thumbstick right there is the Ultra for Xbox One control freak, and I got that on Amazon for a few dollars. It's honestly, in my opinion, better than the Galaxy. I bought those too. Didn't really like it that much. These are way better. They're like rubber, and they have these ripples on the top that basically keep your thumb on it. Now, the reason I use this setup over a just extended thumbstick that comes with the controller itself is because this setup is actually a little bit higher than the other one, than the extended thumbstick, and it also, obviously, as you can see, will give you greater surface area to put your thumb on, and so it's easier to just control and keep your thumb on in general. As you can see, I use the normal D-pad, don't really care about the fancy D-pad that it comes with, and I believe that's it. Oh yeah, also the thumbstick tightening. Both of them are on the max tightness. So it basically makes it feel like an Xbox 360 controller or a PS4 controller, and it's just so much easier to aim and control than a normal Xbox One controller. So here we are in the Elite Series 2 control setup. Before I get into the advanced section of this, I do want to briefly go over my thought process behind the paddle mapping. So again, Y is my edit, B, the lower left, is my build / confirm edit, X is to pull out traps / reload interact, and A is to jump. So to start out, A and the B, the lower left and lower right paddles, are the easiest and most comfortable paddles to get used to. So I wanted A and pull out builds. The two most important functions in the game is to jump and to pull out builds without moving your right thumb off your thumbstick. That's why I put them on A and B. And put those on the lower left and lower right paddles. Then I got the upper left paddle on. That was the next most comfortable because of the positioning of the thumbsticks on the Xbox. The left thumbstick is raised higher than the right thumbstick in terms of the positioning on the actual controller. Because of that, the upper left paddle is more comfortable to get used to, in my opinion, than the upper right. And so for that reason, I wanted to get used to that third paddle, the upper left. And so I put Y there, which is again to start the editing. And so I wanted to obviously edit on a paddle eventually, and so that was the smartest way for me to do that. And so edit was the most important function that came next, in my opinion. So I put that on Y, upper left. And then as you can see, I then put, after doing that, I put B as my confirm edit as well. And that's because you simply just roll your fingers down. What I do is I use my middle fingers for the Y and the X paddles, and then I use my ring finger for B and A. And so I literally just roll those two fingers down whenever I edit. At the same time, obviously, I'm pressing RT, or, you know, timed appropriately, right? It goes Y, RT, B, edit, select, confirm. And I just roll those fingers down, and it's so much easier than trying to time paddles on the other side of the controller at that same time. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's why I did that. Then of course I wanted to be as efficient as I possibly could using all four paddles, and so I placed trap picker, reload interact all on that upper right paddle. And that's because those are situations that are kind of special. They're not as often as pulling out builds, editing, or jumping, and so that's why I put it on the least comfortable paddle, which is the upper right, the X, in my opinion. With that said, let's get into the actual settings here. So I'll go ahead and edit it. This is what the Series 2 format looks like. It looks harder than it is, and they actually have something called a shift function. So like technically I could come in here and I can make a paddle shift, and so what that would do is whenever I held down that paddle, then every other button on the controller would turn into a second set of keybinds that I map, right? So that's why there's primary and there's shift. So when the shift is activated, I could make it Y button, but when the shift is not being pressed down, right, whatever paddle I have activated to shift, then it would stay the X button here, right? Whatever my primary is, this is without shift. This is when the shift button's been held down. Like let's just say this upper right paddle, technically. Let's just say I made this the shift button, right? If I did that, it couldn't do anything but the shift button. Now, whenever I would hold that button down, then all these other paddles would change. So like this, I can make this B, and then, so when I held this button down, I could now, basically pressing the lower right paddle, it would use B as the function instead of A. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's how that works. I don't use the shift paddle because of the fact that you have to use a button that can only be a shift, and so that is kind of hindering the whole point of using all the binds, I guess. Like there's not enough binds in Fortnite in particular to really utilize that function, in my opinion. My duo actually does, I believe, or he did in the past, and so maybe it's for some people, but I've yet to find a way that really is is more efficient than what I currently use, I guess, is a good way to say that. Now, obviously, paddles, everything's normal except for, as I already addressed, A, B, X, Y on the paddles down here. Now, for the left thumbstick, I use aggressive, and I believe I'm basically in the middle there, maybe one to the left. I think that's the default there. But aggressive just makes everything a little bit more instant. It's just preference. You really can't feel it that much. It's usually on default, so you can play around with this stuff and figure it out yourself. But this thumbstick I haven't changed at all. I tried changing it because people said that you could change this and get it to feel like linear, and then use legacy controls in Fortnite, and you would basically get legacy aim assist, which is better than linear aim assist, and then you could basically get the feeling of linear through these settings, right? It doesn't work. In my opinion, I tried it, feels nothing like linear. So I just don't recommend that. I don't recommend changing this thumbstick at all, but you can if you want. So there's that. Now triggers, I use 0, 1. If I put any pressure on these triggers, it instantly activates the function of that trigger. So that's why I keep that on the lowest, so that as soon as I press it, it's like bam, it's activated, right? Vibration, I keep these lower on the left trigger and the right trigger because they sound horrendous on the Elite Series 2 for whatever reason. It sounds like the controller's breaking. So I do recommend turning that down. And then the mains are even kind of annoying, so I turn those down too. So I don't use a lot of vibration, but I still need something just to satisfy my gaming needs, I guess. I don't know, I've been using vibration for so long in gaming that it's like, it's weird if I don't use it, so I need something there. Brightness, haven't changed it at all, but you can if you want. Now that said, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, leave it down below. I'd love to answer it. But these have been my settings for about 2 months now, so it's safe to say that I'll be using these for a while. If I do change these settings at all, it's going to be based around the whole carry issue that I told you about. Whenever your teammate's down, if they update the settings to where we can actually edit that bind and put it wherever we want, I might change something, and I might flip-flop, the X and the Y accordingly to that. So there is that. The other thing I might do is up my actual sensitivity itself from 60% to maybe 65 or 70. I don't know, it just could happen over time. Typically that is what happens, so we'll see. But for right now I'm using 60% and then 2.3 on both the multipliers. So with that said, guys, hopefully that was enjoyable and informative, and if you have any questions, again, leave it down below and I'll be happy to answer that for you. And with that said, have a good day, and I will see you in the next video.